how to say. Hi, everyone. Oh, just this. Hi. I forgot how to say hi already. Привет. Oh, wait. I'm here to talk about customer experience-driven services and products. Wait. Guys. Oh, there. Great. Which one is forward?
I think it's the bottom one.
Okay. Hi, my name is Cathy. I work for ePen Empathy Lab, and I'm based in the London office. I'm actually Canadian, but now I live in London, so if you're wondering, I don't speak with a British accent, which is probably a good thing. I have been living around Europe for the last couple of years, and before joining ePen, I was working at a design agency called Frog that does innovation design. And before that, I worked for a company called Fjord, which does service design. I spend a lot of time thinking about the future, about systems thinking, and also about how everything is connected. I'm going to stand over here. Sorry. So, before we jump right into it, I want to ask a question. Can I see a raise of hands? How many people here are designers, UX designers? UX designers, great. How many people here are visual designers? Visual designer? How many people here do both? Okay. Developers? Great. And the rest of the people who didn't raise your hand, can you raise your hand? Great. What do you do? Come on, give me a word. Like, what do you do? A developer or? Great. Awesome. Okay, so I like to talk about system thinking, and whichever topic I talk about, I always start talking about system thinking. A lot of things are about system, and this is from this guy. He says system thinking is a discipline for seeing wholes. It's about a framework seeing interrelationship rather than things for seeing patterns. So it's about how everything, they connect together. And I have been thinking about how systems, they work together for a very, very long time. And I read a book a long time ago, and then I learned about this concept, and this is called the traveling salesman problem. Is anybody here a mathematician? Really? Oh, damn it. No. Because, sorry if I don't explain this very well, it's actually an NP-hard problem, which is a theoretical mathematical problem. A traveling salesman problem basically means that, in a layman's term, you talk about there's a person, a salesman, he has to travel through multiple different destinations, and he had to start at one place, he had to end at the very end place. But he has to travel through every single one of the points through his journey. And it's actually a mathematical problem. And there are many different solutions to it, and because it's a theoretical theory, that one of the solutions that you can apply to management science, for example, is the end colony optimization algorithm. And this is just another system. Is anybody an entomologist here, which is the people who study insects? I looked that up, by the way. Anybody? Great. So if I didn't explain this very well, nobody would know. So the end colony optimizations basically means, when ants, they're usually in natural habitat, that they go out to find food. And based on the food source and how far it is from the colony, that when they come back, they will leave a little pheromone trail. And based on how variable the food source is, that the pheromone would be stronger or, lighter. And throughout the time, that pheromone will actually evaporate, and then you can't smell it anymore. But leaving this trail allows the other ants to follow the same trail to the nice food source that they found. So this has really made me think about how system works, because it's quite interesting. You look at a traveling salesman problem, and then you look at how ants work, and it's two complete separate systems, and you're looking at little tiny things that the ants do that develop into a system. And that's systems thinking. And to apply system thinking, that if you're thinking about it, it's like you're designing in a bigger context. And this is a very nice quote from an architect, actually. I believe he's Danish. Any architects here? Great. There's one of everything in this room. It's really great. You always design a thing by considering it in its larger context. A chair in a room in a housing environment within a city. So as designers, I'm a designer background myself, and I think that it's very important that we think about the system and then what you're designing within a larger system. And it's not just about, from a very fundamental level, what the website looks like, where does it fit on the page. There's a bigger system around that, and then we will talk about it more when we go on. And sometimes there's a lack of system context, and it just puts system thinking in context. So this is an ad that is on a highway, I believe it's somewhere in America. They do some funny things there sometimes. And there's an ad on the highway in a very big billboard, and it says, "Texting while driving is dangerous, just let it ring." But there's a QR code there. So I think that whoever actually designed the ad thought it was a good idea. Great, we're going to design an ad, and we want you to actually go to the website, and after you see it, great. But then it's on the highway while it's advertising, don't use your phone while you're driving. It's a little weird, and I don't think it's a very good design. I think maybe graphically it makes sense, good text, whatever. But it's lacking the system context. When people are going to experience it, how people are going to experience it, and what is the context. And that is systems thinking. And if we go into a more practical kind of example, and this is one of my favorite personal stories to tell. Like I said, I'm Canadian, and one of the biggest telecom in Canada is called TELUS. And TELUS has a phrase on their tagline called "The future is friendly." And it's really lovely. They have this really wide campaign. This is actually their campaign. Really wide campaign with animals flying. They throw dogs in the air and everything. It looks very nice. Future is friendly. But then I noticed this when I was very young, and then that when you're interacting with a company like this, you're looking at the ads, you see the brochure that they have in the store. You go into the store, you talk to the customer service person. Or it's a telco that they offer mobile phone, they offer your broadband and your house, the internet, they offer everything, what the telco offers. But the experience is very different. You call the customer service, they're always very rude. "Hi, your call is very important to us. Please wait another 15 minutes. It's not very friendly. I turn on my TV, and it would tell me that my EPG, like when you have digital TV, it tells you what the program is on, when it's on, and it always says program information not available. Then why did you show me the thing? It's like, if it's not available. And I go online, there's online billing for everything combined together, and it would tell me funny big words, OTT, IPTV, this is your IPTV bill. I'm like, what's the difference between IPTV and OTT? Well, I think some of us might know, and I finally know what they mean now, but I think for the most normal people, like the actual customer, that doesn't really make sense. So this is a very big experience all wrapped together. But then the things I have been describing, it's all part of one experience. And sometimes they're very disconnected. And that's kind of a problem. Oh, it doesn't show up very well, does it? So there's a thing called customer experience. And this is a customer experience index by Forrester Research. And at the top, it says enjoyable. So how enjoyable is this company to do business with? And then there's easy. How easy were they to do business with? And then the most important part, that is the most fundamental part, which is kind of like, the fundamental that you should actually reach when you're building customer experience. How effective are you meeting the needs? So in the TELUS example, great. You can actually give me internet, you give me cell phone, you give me everything. It meets the needs. But was it easy? Not really. If I have to wait every time, it's not that easy. And how enjoyable was it? I don't think it was very enjoyable in my experience. So that wraps up the whole customer experience. And customer experience is not just about those kind of things that you can see. A lot of times, I think that we shouldn't just stop there and talking about how services are offered. It's not just about product differentiation anymore. And we apply it to a very traditional way of thinking about how actual products were developed. Back in the days, the Nokia phones, I love those phones. I still have one of them. I still think it's the best product design ever. But if we look at the revolution of, feature phones, okay, before, all the touch screens, all the smartphones come into place, a lot of people offer a lot of different products, and throughout the timeline of how product evolved itself, that they're kind of the same, but they're kind of different. And when you want to offer a product to your customer, you say, I want the product to be different. How do you differentiate your product? I don't know, it has bigger screen, it has this and that. But is that really just enough? Because as we see from how mobile phones have evolved in the last couple of years, that it's not just about how big you make your screen anymore. Or is it? Maybe. A lot of times because the customer have more choices on the market, that it's more important that as an advantage, that how you offer your product, it's about the kind of experience that you offer your customers. So that's why customers' experience is important. But don't stop there. It's not just about that. So for companies that a lot of times they shift into customer experience thinking, that it's really about how do you bring value into the customer's lives. A lot of times, I think corporations would say, we need to do this. Okay, our competitors are doing that. We need to do this as well. We see that happen a lot of times, but the truth is, it's like, why do we really need to do this? What's the reason behind it? And the why, a lot of times they focus on why the company themselves, the revenue, the margin, everything that they need to do. And then they say, why do we need to do it? Oh, because we want to. That's not a good reason. So it's about shifting it back to the customers and understand what the customers want. And I believe that value brings engagement because this extra layer of customer experience that the companies are offering, it brings value to different people. And then that the value actually brings the engagement of the customer coming back more. Also, because how simple that seems, that's the next step, it inspires the trust and loyalty of your customers, and then that it brings more customer back. So, one of the example I want to give is that actually one of the airline that you talked about earlier, anonymous airline. It's such a hated airline. It's not a joke. There's a website called I Hate Ryanair. You can look at it. IHateRyanair.com. And it just, tons of things that they talk about how they hate Ryanair. Great, you hate Ryanair. And then it can blame people for hating them because it's a budget airline, how their business has evolved. And also their CEO is a total asshole. He would say, you're not getting a refund, so fuck off. He actually said it in a press conference. Excuse my language. He said it, not me. So how did this turn out for Ryanair is last year in 2013, that they had a new low where their share plummeted 13%. And then there's actually a simplicity index that actually called them the worst brand of the world. I think it's an achievement, some kind of achievement. So Ryanair thought that, okay, this is not good, and I think that the business driver part of it is about the revenue, about how low the profit has fallen. So they implemented an always getting better plan. It's like so they're going to fix everything that the customers don't like. And they focus on 3 different parts. It didn't show up very well. It's a complete different color, guys. There's a digital overhaul. They launched a new website where they eliminated the booking process originally with 17 clicks down to 5. Okay, so obviously the usage went up. Good job. And they also launched a new mobile app. And that actually, they didn't have a mobile, they had a web mobile app before, and then they launched a real mobile app that allows all the functionality on the web to do it. And that is the power of digital. They did a digital overhaul. And then they focus on customer needs. So it's not just about what you do with the digital. They kind of change their corporate structure, the business requirement, and they say, okay, now you can have this many more baggage, and you don't have as much high of a penalty. Back in the days, if you didn't print your own boarding pass, you go to the airport without printing it, they charge you £60. Not kidding, you gotta look that up. And then also you can have allocated seating. So these are the customer needs that they're taking care into. And also they hired a branding agency so that they have more of a social reach of a better branding voice, that they communicate with their customers better. And guess what? It has been working. They actually have a 32% increase in profit and 9% increase in revenue. And the number is from October, just last month. They're still rated pretty bad in the brand index, but I think it's a long journey that it would take time. So that's customer experience. So now we shift back from how the corporates are doing it, and we'll look at how we are feeling it. So the way that, as people, the way we're experiencing the world is changing rapidly, that we're seeing the world through technology, we are looking at the world differently. And back in the days, you can go down the street, and then you can get your grocery from a guy with a rickshaw, and then you can get your grocery. But nowadays, that you can actually order your grocery online and everything else, thanks to Google, Amazon. I know that they don't have it everywhere, but soon. So, everything around us has changed, and how we are experiencing, how we're using products and services around us is changing as well. And one of the very important things is that we are having a very multi-faceted experience. There are multiple touch points, multiple locations, and multiple activities. So these are the things that we do. We would do things in different places, and then we do different things in different location. And also, another thing to take into consideration when you talk about experience is that there's a before, during, and after. So, for example, you come into this conference. Before you come to the conference, there's a website, blah, 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 and then you come to the conference, everything in between, and after, maybe there's a feedback form or survey. So there's a before, during, after, and that's the full experience, and that experience loops around over and over again. So to illustrate that idea, I map out the journey so that maybe it will help us look at it together. And so there are different touch points always. There's your handheld devices, your TV, your web. So this is mapping a very specific experience, so I chose these touch points. The human touch point, there's the store clerk, the customer service on the phone, and then the store. So what happens is that, so if we're mapping out a TV service, for example, so you go to the store and say, hey, look at that flyer. Oh, that seems like a very interesting product. And then you pull out your phone and you say, oh, is that actually a product I need? So if we're talking about a new service provider subscription package for video, like a Netflix service, a multi-screen Netflix service. And then when you go home and then you look on your computer, it's like, how is this different? Why wouldn't I just get Netflix? It's like, do I really need this? And then you do your research. And then you go back to the store and then say, hey, maybe I want to see a demo. So then you ask the store clerk. Well, I hope this person will actually know how to demo it. It's part of the experience. And then boom, you get to the spot where you say you're purchasing the actual thing, which is the subscription in this case. And then you go home and say, I had to set it up on my TV. How do I do that? And hopefully that there will be a very intuitive way for you to actually set it up on your TV, and you set it up. And if you really can't figure out, you call the customer service, which hopefully will be easy for you to find. And then you call the customer service, and hopefully they're actually very competent and don't let you wait for 50 minutes before they give you an answer. And then you finish your setup on your TV. And then you go into the consumption part, where now you finally buy your Netflix or something that is like Netflix, and then you can watch the video. And this is the kind of thing that you watch your video, you can watch anywhere. You know how Netflix works. You can watch it on your computer, you watch it on your phone, you watch it on your tablet, anywhere. You can be watching it in your house, you could be watching it in front of your TV, on your TV, and say, oh, oops, gotta go to the washroom. But you pause it on TV, you put it on your phone, and then you go to the washroom and you keep watching on your phone. And you just pick up where you left off. I think that's why they invented it, just so people can go to the washroom. But then sometimes if things don't work, maybe you go to the online website and then you read the frequent asked questions, and then if you can figure out, hopefully that it will automatically turn it into a help desk ticket that you can actually talk to a customer service rep and it becomes a live chat. So this is the full journey that I have mapped out many times for the different client services that we design for this kind of engagement. And to say, this is the kind of journey that you want, and then there are multiple of them, and then multiple opportunity points where we can focus on improving customer experience. And a lot of times that we would measure the different emotion that is invoking in the customer. And we'll look at it as a before, during, and after. So that's why I was talking about multifaceted experience. So there's a very emerging interaction in how customer experience works, and I just want to bring them into 3 different points and give you some example of how to push for that and then what kind of realm people are doing, inspirational. So there's natural, adaptive, and anticipatory. So what does natural actually mean? Siri? Let's ask Siri. Hi Siri, what does natural mean? What Siri says.
Let me think.
Great.
Check this out.
Siri's not very good, but let me think. So, so it's very natural, and a lot of companies are doing it. Siri is doing it. It's that Siri is not doing a very good job. But, what can I help you with? Because it's a natural thing that you do. You lie in bed, hey, what time is it? Something should tell you, perhaps. And that's part of the experience of that, moving towards more of a natural thing. A lot of retailers these days, they're using this kind of touch screen. And then because the emerging technology of touch screen everywhere, that you're able to actually interact with whatever it is that you're seeing in store. And perhaps with more technology of the mapping, that you can try on clothes in a retail store with a giant screen. And that's a very natural thing to do because you stand in front of a mirror with your clothes, you pick up a clothes, you stand in front of it and look at it. And how nice would it be that you can actually switch it? And that's kind of to go into the human behavior of what's natural. That's adaptive. So this is there's a good example of Apple AirPlay. A lot of times you're looking at something on your phone, and then you can say Apple AirPlay. You pull up Apple AirPlay, and then you can put it on the TV with the Apple TV. And then also at the same time, like the keynote. I was going to do this trick, except it's not my computer, because I could use my phone as a remote with my keynote, and that's how I can control it. So it's adaptive, and adaptive in a way that it's accommodating everything I want to do, and it's letting me do whatever I want to do in all the ways I want to do it, and it seems natural. I think a lot of different telcos that, they're starting to connect the different screens together as well. I've worked a lot on this kind of video project about how the different screens connect. And this is a very adaptive system. So, there's a coherency, like in the different screens that they will show the same things. And then that they synchronize. It means that when you get up in front of your TV and you walk to your bathroom, you pick up your phone, and it's still the same thing. And it pick up where you left off. And then also there's a screen sharing part where, you can just swipe whatever you want to show on TV. Device shifting, it means that whatever that you're doing that you can do on the same phone, so it's sync in the cloud. And then this complementary, which is quite an exciting thing, is where you're watching TV and then you can see what's on TV, and then if you're watching a sports show, it will show you the stats of the sport, and that's a complementary. And that's adaptive, because guess what? We're in a very mobile-centric era now. Whenever you're watching TV, you're probably looking at your phone as well. Half of you are looking at your phone right now. I can see it. You see? It's okay. And then there's simultaneously, it means that it doesn't matter how the multiple devices can actually do the same thing at the same time. So in a specific experience, I talk about like Netflix. You can watch Netflix on, I think, up to 2 to 3 devices at the same time, and it means that your service is not interrupted, and that's very important as part of the experience. And if we go on more further, anticipatory, it means that the service and the product itself, it has to be proactive, and it has to be contextual. And proactive in the sense that I don't know how you guys deal with your relationship. You know, if somebody comes home and feeling really bad, you don't wait for them to tell you why they're feeling bad. You go and ask them, hey, why are you feeling so bad? Because you can see they're feeling bad. It's proactive. And Google actually launched something called Google Inbox very recently. And I really enjoy it. I have it on my phone. If you want to look at the app later, I can show it to you. But they basically group your email. And most importantly, it's like they would group, like for here, your purchases all together. You get a lot of receipts in your email, but they group it together because they know what you actually need. And then they will actually float. I think that in the old inbox, the Gmail inbox, they will float what they think is important. I think that algorithm can be tweaked sometime, but it's anticipatory, and that's what services are supposed to do. And these are kind of the function and the features that really brings a lot of value to the customer experience because you feel taken care of. And to kind of, step away from the very practical and tactical point of view, this is a story that I like to tell. So this is a very nice quote from Nietzsche. He said, the invisible threads are the strongest ties, and it's about emotion. So all the different things that we know about customer experience now, how it's measured, how can it be designed, how can you approach it better, but then really there's a fundamental line about emotion. Do you guys have the Kinder Surprise here? Yes? Yes! Last time I showed this, I was in America. And Americans don't allow that in their country because they think it's a choking hazard to the kids. So nobody knew what it was. I'm like, you missed out on childhood. So, you all know about the Kinder Surprise. So the Kinder Surprise, there's this little egg. You buy it, you open it, and then there's that moment of excitement when you open it. And then you unbox it, and then you see the toy, and you're so exciting, and it's just lovely, and then you just can't get enough of it. But that's not it. That's part of the emotion journey. So I think that perhaps when you actually have kids, maybe some of you already do, I don't have kids yet, but when my kids grow up to an age where they're gonna be bitching at me in the supermarket, I wanna buy candy. And if I have to buy one, I think I will buy this one. It's because that emotion of that long growing emotion, when I was a kid, when I opened that chocolate and that excitement, and I remember that emotion as kind of like planting a seed, and that customer experience keep growing. And then that for a specific product, they have a lifetime of like an emotional ecosystem that keeps growing with your lifetime as well. So I remember that emotion. So when I have to choose a chocolate again, I might buy that one because I want to give my kids that same emotion all over again because I remember how excited I was. And that is the longevity of emotion, and that is a full circle of customer experience. And that is very nice. So that sums up my talk. And there's further reading. I will put the talk somewhere. And then you can read more about the different example I have given. Any questions? How long did I talk? That's all. Thank you. Any questions? What do I do at EPAM? I'm a user experience director at EPAM in the London office. And on a day-to-day, I do this a lot. I go around and then I talk to clients, I talk to different companies to tell them how design thinking can change their business and how we can make it happen for them. And a lot of times I do kind of like pre-sale, but in a sense, I would like to think it's more about, I'm spreading the good news of design thinking. Yeah. And I work with very talented people like Pavel.
Can I have a question, please?
Yes.
Cathy, thank you for the great presentation. It's very interesting, and I just want to touch a subject of dark patterns is something maybe immoral thing to do, right? But this is the way how companies gain efficiency in a very short period of time. So can you please comment on this? What do you think about the companies who do that, and how effective can it be in the long run and in short run too?
Okay. So for some of you, if you're not familiar with dark pattern is a kind of thing that companies do, or even to the level of UI design, they do specifically bad user experience so that they can get what they want, such as they put a giant pop-up in your face, that you have to click on it to go on, or they hide the continue button and you have to buy something before you continue. Those are dark patterns. And they obviously work. And I think that there's a theory in the design industry that they keep talking about as well. It's called design for persuasion. So how do you persuade someone, and how do you make somebody agree with you? And then sometimes it's kind of like human interaction. And this is how I see design. It's that however we're designing a service or product, it's kind of how you have relationship with people. Sometimes you're kind of manipulative towards other people, and I think that's okay, as long as you don't get caught. You see what I mean? So it's like if you're manipulative with the people around you, sometimes you get what you want with the little things that you put in. It's great, but if you get caught, it's not very nice. So you have to do it in a nice enough way, and there are many ways to do it. And I think that in the end, every company, they have a goal that they want to do. And a lot of times it's financial goals, and that's okay. It's about, at the same time, how do they wrap it up to be a very nice experience for the customer. And if they do, such as Ryanair, the one everybody hates, that they want to improve their numbers, but then they know that they have to cover it up in a nice way and how they approach it, and that's totally okay. Other questions? More questions? He has more questions. Last questions.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Say it loud, and you will hear me. Раз, два, три. Okay, now I have 2 microphones. No, one will do. Okay, so what about personal responsibilities? So sometimes your goals are not actually yours, but since you're working in EPAM or you're working for your customer, you can sometimes have goals that were done by the customer, and you don't agree, you don't feel that you agree with that, right? So, for example, they're forcing you to use some kind of those dark patterns or some other tricks to do customers some things to increase their revenue, and you don't feel like you don't want to do that. So, and maybe some other guys who are here will agree with me that sometimes we have to do something which we don't accept, but we must do that because we are employees and we are supposed to do. So what do you suggest to do in this situation?
Good question. Very good question. I met this developer the other day. I like to answer questions with a story. I met this developer the other day, and then he's doing this like replatforming of this legacy system that's been 20-year old that you can't even put jQuery on it. That's how old it is. I don't even know what it does. And I asked him why he likes it. He said that because the restriction of the legacy system, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't know how to blah, 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 but those restrictions, it pushes you to be more creative. And this is from a developer. And he said that, oh yeah, it forces me to be more creative, and I have to really think about what I'm doing. I have to really look at my code to make it work. And that's a creative solution. And I think as designers, on a design point of view, these are just restrictions. These are the boundaries that you have to design within. We always have boundaries, and we always have different bounds and requirements that we design within. And it's about how creative you get than to actually make it into something nice. There are ways to design things that, how do I make this more enjoyable? And those are just boundaries. It doesn't necessarily mean they're bad, because they're part of the requirement, and that's okay. But if you're a good designer, there are creative ways around it. The developers can whine all day and say, this legacy system doesn't work. Well, yeah, it's never going to work, and it's fine. But if you're creative enough, you will be able to write a beautiful code that will be able to wrap everything around. And I think that is something to take forward. And when you get grumpy, think about what the developers have to do. Maybe you'll feel better. Does that answer your question? Yeah? And if you don't feel comfortable asking in English, he will translate. No? Anything else?
I'm sorry, one more question. For example, 10 years ago, everyone remember travel industry, travel agencies. You go to office, buy some package, flight, hotel, everything you need, pretty much, probably transfers, and it was not really nice experience. Now you have to book everything on your own, you can change your plans, you travel on your own, and you are free to do something. And it's, on one side, it's great experience, on the other side, it's education. You have to go through new processes, new interfaces, you have to learn something new. On the other side, what I see, so I mean education is really a great experience. And what I see for last 3 years in user experience, everyone trying to not make anything new. It's like use natural patterns, use something people used to, use something people already like. And how do you think why that happens? I mean, should I really, as UX designer, avoid any kind of new education and new experience? And if I shouldn't, if I really should invent some kind of new experience, why I can see other people making some kind of presentations about that?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Thank you. I think one of the things that, I think this is why I always start my talk with about system thinking. Because if you talk about the user experience pattern that people have been trying to do for a couple of years now, it's like, oh, it's more natural. Look at this. It looks like, you know, a pool table on a game center. It's horrible. But the idea of that is that we're always kind of borrowing another system. And that's what the system thinking that I was talking about, is that you're kind of borrowing a different system. And on design point of view, it's like if you look at what design really means, it's like if you're not just designing the interface, so if you're designing a whole new experience, it's not about how you lay out the experience, it's not how you lay out the interface, it's about the full experience. So for example, this is just one example about the specific, about the travel industry that you mentioned. You know that the whole Siri thing, it's like you ask Siri, hey Siri, what's the weather? And Siri will tell you. So wouldn't it be nice if travel was like that? So this is the system thinking part. If you're thinking about how do you apply one experience to another, it's nice. You know, what does natural actually mean? So perhaps it'll be a contextual search. I want to go somewhere warm next week within 2-hour flight. That's it. That's what I want to do. And would that be a new experience for travel? Yes, it would. And then would that be able to be designed with the technology we have? Yes. And then it's just a different experience that you're borrowing because that you can see that how you push it forward. Does that answer your question? Yes? I hope so.
Well, yeah, pretty much. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Anybody else? Great, awesome. Wait, spasiba. Thank you.